Welcome to the Corporate Learning Network videocast. I'm Jeff Cattell. Today I have with me Sam Hammack, Chief Learning Officer and Vice President of Global Regulatory Learning and Communications at American Express. She'll be speaking at this year's Corporate Learning Week, November 12th through the 15th at Disney's Yacht Club Resort in Orlando, Florida. Sam, welcome to the program.
Great, thanks, Jeff.
So just getting started, can you explain to us what you'll be speaking about at this year's conference?
So in November, I'll be on the CLO panel, and we'll be talking about emerging trends, things that we're experiencing in our own industries and our workplace around learning, development, and a lot of the things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Great, great. And so in terms of learning and development, from your perspective, what have you focused on in the last year?
So for me, one of our biggest focuses has been around the regulatory and compliance space in regards to training. So how are we meeting our requirements that we're required to meet by both the government and, as a financial institution, kind of our internal review and control processes as well. So we've been really focused on the documentation around training. Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it all documented? I mean, everything all your T's have to be crossed, all your I's have to be dotted. And so we've really been focusing on that. And we're also, one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is, this is a very large curriculum. We're talking upwards of, 50 different curriculums with 200 and almost 80 different activities, and it could be a number of blends in that area. And we're also talking about 120,000 different people. So we've really been focusing on how do we do that and make the training still effective, because you don't want to give everybody everything. You lose brain space. And so we've really been focused on leveraging technologies as well as our internal systems and solutions to be able to get the right training to the right people and still make our regulators happy.
Great. So speaking of technology, what kind of technologies have you guys implemented or been using for the past few years?
Yeah. So for the past few years, we've definitely been leveraging an LMS, right? So we're using, kind of a standard learning management system, and that's been pretty static with us. We certainly have invested in some upgrades with the vendor that we use, and really kind of tapping into some different additional features that can make some of the stuff I just talked about easier for us, because it's certainly not easy to train 120,000 people on different things across the globe. But the other thing that's been really exciting these past 18 months is American Express has made the decision to invest in some additional technologies and capabilities that make our job even easier. One of the things that we are in the process of doing that's very close right now is an LCMS. So we're getting a content management system, which is going to be phenomenal. When you work in a matrix environment in a large company, you need to be able to leverage and share, some of those best practices, the content. So that's really exciting. The other thing that we're also working on is three other things. We invested in a really great, with our LMS vendor, we've invested in a really fabulous reporting and analytics tool. That's been phenomenal. I tease a lot that leaders across the company care more about the reporting status than they do about the training. And it's not true, but it is very valuable, right? If you're gonna hold people's feet to the fire that their employees need to do this training, we need to be able to give them accurate and timely reporting to tell them what their status is. And so that's definitely been an investment, and it's been a phenomenal tool that we've been using. It's dynamic, it's web-based, it's real-time. So that's been helpful. And then the last thing that we've invested in, which we've used a vendor to help us create, an outside company to help us create, but we've done some of it in-house, and it's a tool that actually sits on both of our learning management system and our HR people systems, and it does both. And so it allows us to determine out to every single employee, what type of work do you do every day, right? This is the type of information that's not in an employee system that you want to know what they're doing to figure out what's the right training. We want to make sure that this training we're giving people is relevant to their job. And so this tool actually allows us to gather that information from employees, and then it automatically assigns the appropriate activities. So we've taken the manual nature out of the hard work of audience determination and assignment in the LMS and reporting, and it's running on a seamless manner and getting us the functional data that we need.
Wow, that's really impressive. So it sounds like there's a lot of different technology that you're leveraging right now, but how do you avoid falling into the trap of just using that technology just because it's available and for technology's sake?
Yeah, the million dollar question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a big thing, right? And certainly you see some of these demos and these vendors and it looks all flashy and sexy and you want to jump on, right? One thing is at American Express, we're pretty conservative in that fashion anyway, right? So kind of sit back and see, but also, I really do believe it's important not to jump onto that. And certainly I believe in the 80-20 rule. So, while I get really excited about mobile learning, right? For us, it's not quite the time yet because the majority of our employee base doesn't have the devices to be able to do that. So for us, it doesn't quite make sense yet. But, I think we're getting closer and closer and we'll get excited about kind of leveraging some of that new technology. But, certainly, I think you have to do an ROI around the technologies, which is a little bit different than doing an ROI around some of your training, which I'm sure, will be definitely discussed at the conference, which will be an exciting topic. But for us, investing in a technology solution has a hard dollar and it should have a pretty valid investment and benefit behind it. So we've been able to do a lot of kind of tests in terms of do we really need it or don't we? And we've been able to make that call somewhat easily.
Great, great. So talking about challenges you face in the space, I know you mentioned there are just a few things like, ROI and things that come up. But for you guys, what do you see as the biggest challenges to learning and training at American Express, and what are you doing to address those challenges?
Yeah, certainly, one of the big challenges continues to be global, right? So how do you address things on, market-to-market basis without, losing the overall foundation and strategy of your program, right? I mean, you can't be running, we operate in over 60 countries, so we can't be running 60 different training programs, right? I mean, that's impossible. So how do you kind of continue to manage global? That continues to be a challenge that, we look into. Technologies is always a challenge because, you're limited to what your capabilities can do. And you're also limited to your data, right? So a lot of times I find that the technology is working okay, but your internal data, whether it be your people systems or, anything else, you're limited to that capability as well. And, sometimes that's like pushing a rock uphill. So, and then, I think the last thing for us, just being in a very highly regulated industry, is, one of our biggest challenges is continuing to meet the external regulators and the government's expectations. And to be honest, the environment that we've been living in for the past couple of years is those expectations keep changing. So to meet the requirements of the regulators and the regulations has been a little bit of a revolving door. So for us to keep up on that and make sure that we're meeting the needs as well, but at the same time, the hardest part is you want to meet the employees' needs too.
Right. Wow, that's a lot to balance. My goodness, my goodness. So I'm wondering, one of the things you mentioned is some of the emerging trends, right? You mentioned mobile learning, and for you guys, it sounds that that's not exactly the right time for it. So from your perspective, what are the emerging trends in the learning and development space that you're looking to put into play at American Express?
So, I say it's not the right time, but we're piloting it, testing it, right? And kind of moving along. We don't have, a huge, we have divisions of our company that have a huge sales force, but, for the most part, like I said, the 80-20 rule, 80% of our people are kind of at their desk every day. So we're looking into it. We're actually piloting it this fall with select groups. So I'm excited about that. And our LMS vendor has applications that are kind of supporting mobile learning right now today. So I think it will be a really good immersion for us. Some of the other things that I'm excited about are just some of the new interactivities I've been seeing in regards to design and development. So gaming continues to be very exciting, and we have a large segment of our employee audience that it's a perfect fit for, right? So continuing to look at some of the trends that are coming out through design and development is one of kind of the things I'm passionate about in terms of, how do we really make it? And I think that, that really makes the training engaging. And certainly one of the things I'm always worried about is knowledge transfer. So I think that's one of the best ways for us to kind of tap into that as we move forward.
Great. And before I let you go, what are you most excited about at this year's conference?
So almost ties right back into your last question, but what I'm most excited about is, you always hear about ways that people are doing it different. And, sometimes it's cutting edge, and sometimes it's just a simple way to think about execution and implementation that you hadn't thought about before, right? In a way, a lot of us are using the same tools, right? Or most of us are using an LMS. It usually has the same type of capability, and a lot of us deal with the same issues. And so it's really exciting to get all these learning professionals with such amazing experience in the same room and hear about what they're doing, how are they addressing some of these problems, and get tactical and see kind of share best practices. So I get very excited about just kind of the networking opportunity and the ability to share some of these ideas with each other.
Very cool. All right, well, thanks, Sam. That was Sam Hammack,
No
Chief
problem.
Learning Officer at American Express. For more information on Sam or any of the other speakers at this year's conference, you can view an agenda by clicking the download button below. Thanks for watching.